Hello, my name is Josh, and I'm Watchaholic. Welcome to Horology Insanity. What is up, Mom Watch friends? All right, so check it out. Here we are. I'm going to make this into a second video, but this is just a comparison of this Borealis to some of the other watches that I had mentioned in the kind of quote-unquote review video that I did for it. I know that I gave this watch a little bit of hate, and I feel justified in that. I think that what I'm saying is true, and as long as I'm telling the truth and I'm doing it fairly and respectfully, then I feel all right by that. But with that, let's show some of the examples so that I can show you what I'm referring to and talking about. So the first one that we're going to compare this to, or at least that I compared it to, was the Halios Seaforth. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I've got several of these, but let's put this up here and give it about 3 seconds and tell me if everything that I said in my other video is true. And it is. So let's look at, pull it in tight. Okay, here's what we're looking at. You'll notice that the indices and the hands are pretty much identical. The second hand is identical. You'll notice that the indices having the blacked out kind of rings around them, even with the date wheel at the 6, is all kind of identical. You'll notice that the complaint that I had with the Borealis, where it's got this white minute track going around the outer edge of the bezel, instead of it being like either on the dial or maybe as a chapter ring or a rehaut up inside of there, and how that steals away from the dial space. When I put it next to the Halios, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Notice how all of the indices have to be scrunched in on the Borealis dial to fit that gigantic minute track. And I'm sorry, it just makes it, in my opinion, less aesthetically appealing. Now, you've got a couple of other ones. Now that I'm actually looking at this Halios, you see they did a color match date wheel. So that's a give or a take. Some people like them, some don't. I know, like on the Hampton, for example, he purposefully didn't. Ross didn't make it a color match on one of the models because he wanted it to look like an indice, and I think it was at like a 4 o'clock position. I'd have to pull that back out. But anyway, I admit, in his circumstance and his design, it did work better to not have a color match date wheel. However, in this Halios and in many of the other ones that do have it, it's nice. This Borealis maybe should have done that. Now, I'll give credit where credit's due. This Halios is a slightly more expensive watch than this Borealis. And that's not counting the fact that these Halios are impossible to find and are therefore going for ridiculous level premiums on the secondary market. But, you know, when you just look at this case, the finishing, the design, everything on it, I don't know. It just, if you've ever touched one of these Halios, then this Borealis, you're probably going to end up with the same kind of opinion that I do, and you're probably not going to care for it too much. Now, if you've never touched one of these amazing Halios watches, well, then you might love this Borealis. You know, everybody's perspectives and opinions are different. But anyway, so there's the side-by-side on that. You'll notice this one just has the standard blue strap. So let me set that down. Let me go to another model. Now, this is the no date, right? So it's the same blue Halios Seaforth Gen 3 at a movement, but you'll notice that this one doesn't have the date. It has the indices going all the way around. Now, I don't know if Borealis has an option for a no date. And I say this as someone who I love even a day date on a watch because I like using the functionality of watches. But I will say that this Borealis might have looked a little bit better with that giant minute track had it maybe not have had a date there and had it maybe had been an indice. You gotta balance, in my opinion, the design of throwing too much stuff on a dial. And the texture on the Borealis is amazing, but that minute track, and then you add to it the big clunky date, and I don't know, it's just a lot. Now, I will say, after getting this Halios back out and kind of thinking or presuming that part of my distaste for this Borealis was because of this kind of chintzy president style bracelet, I think I'm right in that. if this Borealis had a bracelet like this, then it probably would have jumped up several notches in the value parameter or the value equation. Now, this bracelet is actually the Jeannot bracelet, and I know that's controversial, right? It's got the glide lock system. It's very similar to your Submariner bracelets, but this Jeannot bracelet is absolutely top notch. Now, I would also liken it to some of the strap code bracelets. So if you ever checked out a strap code, kind of oyster style, whatever they're calling them now, because they're not allowed to say the word oyster, but if you get one of the strap code bracelets, it's going to feel comparable to this. The clasp is going to be different, of course, but just the overall value of this bracelet is about 1,000,000 times better than this. Now, I also don't think that that's just this bracelet. I think that that is the design of the President bracelets in general. You know how Jubilee bracelets just have a feel to them, no matter how good they are, right? I mean, I'm wearing one, and I've got another one over here in a second, but it's a different feel. But these Presidents, I don't know what it is. I've got to watch Gecko one on a Sarb 033 mod, and it kind of has the same feeling as this. And so you just kind of gotta take it for what it is. But now that I'm putting these two side by side and I'm really comparing them, I have determined that I was right in saying that if this Borealis had a different bracelet on it, it would feel like a different watch, and it probably would feel like a better watch. I probably would feel like it was more worthy of the $475, almost $500 price tag they're putting on this. So just my take. Now, real quick, because I've got them here, let's just do some other quick comparisons. Here's another blue one. This has the diver's bezel on it, so you can see how it compares similar. Now, this is the stainless steel bezel on the Halios, but you can see even then, even with the bezel, it changes kind of the overall aesthetic of the watch, but it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. And the bezel on this Borealis, I'm not complaining about at all. I think the bezel's fine. I think what's killing it is that minute ring, and then maybe the date. So now if the date was color matched, you're right, that might be a thing. But you can see here how direct one-on-one of the Halios. Now, here we go. Here's one more. This is the gray variant, and you can see how this gray variant does not have the blacked out or the black rimmed indices and hands the way that the Borealis does and those other Halios do. It's got the kind of stainless steel, chromed out, whatever, shiny, polished, whatever you want to call that, edges. But you'll notice against the date wheel is color matched, which makes this amazing. I'm going to be honest with you. The gray Halios is probably one of my all-time favorite watches. But if you put it up side by side with the date just that looks exactly like this, then you'll probably know why. So, but again, all the cases are the same, but just take a look at the difference there. And I really want you to focus in on the fact that those indices and everything, they got to go somewhere, and they're all scrunched in on that Borealis. And I think it's one of those things where, man, I hate if I ruin this for everybody, but it's one of those things where you can't unsee it. So I don't have a date just, right? I don't currently have any Rolexes in my collection because I sold them, and I'm purposefully not buying anymore until they quit acting like children, manipulating the market in the way that they are. But here is a Pagani date dust homage, and you can see kind of the similar styling cues that the Halios and the Borealis kind of take after. So if that helps, you'll see the second hand's different, and the 12 o'clock indice is a little bit different. Borealis actually went through on the 3 and the 9 and made them a little bit longer. So you have different cues, but you can see the overall aesthetic. Okay. And then last I'm going to show in here, this is one that I think has taken kind of cues from this and from other watches, but maybe did it a little bit better. So this is the Laurier Falcon. This is the version 1, I think, which is a little bit bigger. They make a version 2, I believe, that's 36. This one, I think, is 38 or 39. But you'll see the texture of the dial, which I'm a big fan of. Again, I'm a fan of that on the Borealis. You'll see that the indices are very, very similar in the sticks, with the double stick at the 12, kind of like the Halios, kind of like the Datejust, kind of like the Borealis. But you'll notice that they pushed them all the way out. And they also made them all the elongated ones. So they're about the same length as the 3 and 9 on this Borealis. The date wheel on this, because it's a white dialed watch, it kind of goes. You're good with that. And then you'll see that Laurier kind of switched it up with the handset, going for that 12 o'clock kind of Omega Seiko-ish arrow, and then with the kind of clean sword style on the minute hand, and then the second hand's got that pointer. But as I was going through my watch boxes to compare watches to this Borealis, right, I wanted to just kind of pull this out. And the other reason I want to pull this out is because this Lorient is the same price as this Borealis. And in my opinion, this Lorient is not cheap. I don't, in one way, look at the end links on those, everything, the bracelet is super smooth. I'll do a thing on this, fully articulating. I've got to do a video on this one. But anyway, here's a great example where I know the Halios has cost more, right? But this Laurier doesn't cost more. And I don't know. You're getting way more value out of this Laurier Falcon than you are this Borealis. So I don't know, man. I feel bad if I'm just kind of pooping all over this Borealis today, but for me, it's just not there. If you have yours and you love them, my opinion doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You do you and enjoy it. Now, if you end up venturing out, maybe checking out these Laurier. If you can find a Halios, check out a Halios. Get one of these Janelle bracelets, throw it on there. So anyway, this is where I'm at. And thankfully, the Borealis is a tour watch. Therefore, it is not a lesson learned in my overall budget and spending on this hobby. That's good news. Anyway, we're going to end it here. Remember, please, please, please remember what really matters. And that's not watches. Keep the insanity sane, my friends.